The story begins as a girl named Lufus vows to become strong enough so that she can remove all inequality from the world, and as she grows up, we see her surrounded by the bodies of fallen heroes. A party appears before her, and they tell her to give up since there's nothing she can do, but she mentions that they're the ones who were finished. She rushes towards them and instantly slams one of them to the ground, while their archer fires his arrows at her, but she manages to block all of them. A bear fights her up close, but she dodges his attacks and sends him flying into the mountain, before taking out the archer with her magic swords. The warrior punches her away, but she easily overpowers him and smashes him down. He blows himself up to try to take her out, but she survives the explosion, and the party leader tries to attack her from behind. But she notices him before he can get to her, so she attacks him first, but it turns out to be an illusion, and the real one appears behind her. She stabs him with her hand, but she's shocked to see that he has the climax skill, and she realizes that he took her attack on purpose. She tries to get away, but he slashes her, while the mage seals her with a spell. She laughs and praises them for defeating her, and she mentions that they might stand a chance against the Devil King. We learn that it was all just a game, and the boy can't believe he lost the fight, but he suddenly gets a message, which he thinks is from the game's official company. He accepts it without reading it, but he suddenly wakes up in Lufus's body, and he starts losing his mind, wondering if he's been transported into the game. He tries to ask the people around him for information, but he has no control over his body, and he ends up using magic that makes everyone bow down before him. He realizes that he's using Lufus's racial skill, which applies pressure on people around him, so he tries to stop it, but it puts even more pressure on them. He finally manages to cancel the skill, and an elf starts losing his mind. As he realizes that they've summoned the Conqueror. Lufus realizes that the elf has information about him, so he starts asking questions, but the elf is so scared that he passes out. The ones who summoned him reveal that Lufus has been sealed for 200 years, but the Demon King is still alive, so they tried summoning a hero to defeat him. Lufus calms them down and mentions that he isn't the Conqueror they heard about, revealing that even though he lost the battle, he was satisfied with the results. He takes out his wings, and as he flies away, he tells them to summon someone else, since he wants to explore the world. As he goes outside, he's excited since he's in his favorite game, and he gets to live in it through the character he created. He knows he should find a way to get back home, but he plans to enjoy his time before doing anything else, and we learn that he's in a game called X-Gate, which is set in the world of Midgard. One of its famous features is war, where players fight each other, and the winner gets control of the loser's nation. Another one of its selling points is a feature called Novel, which adapts the player's in-game actions into a story that ends up getting published as its official history. The player created the most powerful character Lufus, and used her to unite the whole of Midgard for the first time in the game's history. It was such a great feat that she became a semi-official character, but he knows that an era with a single powerful ruler doesn't make for a fun game. So he negotiated with other high-level players to split their forces into the Conqueror's army led by Lufus, and the Army of Light led by the heroes. They held the greatest battle in the game's history, while completely ignoring the official final boss, and it ended with Lufus getting sealed. Lufus heads to the sky tower he used as a base, and as he enters it, he feels nostalgic, even though it's his first time seeing it in person. As he sits on the throne, he thinks about the time he used to chat with his friends while playing the game, but he remembers a strange memory, which makes him wonder if he isn't in the game world. A girl named Dina appears in front of him, and she's happy to see him, since she's been waiting for him to return for 200 years. But he doesn't know who she is, which makes her cry, and she mentions that she's his advisor, which makes him remember that she's an NPC he created while making the base. He praises her for protecting the base in his absence, which makes her happy, and he asks her to tell him everything that has happened. So she reveals that the 7 heroes who defeated Lufus formed their own nations, but 4 of them have already passed away from old age. She notes that the Devil King is alive and well, since he was able to defeat the heroes, but he wonders if they're also players like him. She adds that the 12 heavenly stars are still alive, and he thinks about how it's the title he gave to the 12 monsters he obtained, which are like NPC companions. She reveals that 2 of them have joined the Devil King, since they want to get revenge on the humans who defeated Lufus, but he thinks they must be punished for their actions. He's glad that he now has a goal, and he tells Dina they're going on a journey to gather the 12 heavenly stars, so she reveals the location of one of them named Aries. Luthas quickly takes out his wings and prepares to fly there, but Dina stops him, since they need to make preparations. She notes that they're broke, and it will be difficult to earn money, since everyone knows Luthas. The only thing they can do is accept quests as adventurers, since the job doesn't care about their background or identity, and they decide to go for it. They visit a city, where Luthas mentions that it's difficult to walk with his robe, but Dina tells him they need to make sure they don't attract attention. They arrive at the guild, and Dina recalls that Luthas was an adventurer before he formed his own nation, but he doesn't understand why he feels nostalgic. She proposes to accept a job to find a dozen cats, but he rejects it since it isn't his specialty, and they end up accepting a quest to eliminate orcs. They arrive at a village, where they meet the old man who posted the job, and Dina assures him that Luthas will take care of the orcs. They go to the orcs' base, and Dina thinks they're so ugly that even the goddess must hate them, so Luthas notes that the goddess loves everyone equally, but Dina thinks it isn't true. He prepares to attack the orcs, and as he checks his stats, he sees that they're the same as before, but he doesn't know if he can bring himself to kill monsters. He uses his magic to create swords, and launches them at the orcs, but he's surprised that he isn't bothered, even though he just slaughtered the monsters. The rest of the orcs come out to face him, and they rush towards him, but he doesn't understand why they're so slow. He slices off their heads, and their leader smashes him with all its might, but it can't believe that he's completely fine. He realizes that the orcs are weak, but he's just too strong for them, and the leader tries to attack him again, but he quickly gets close to it, and with just a tap, he causes it to explode. As Dina tears the orcs open, she mentions that they got lucky, since their tenderloins weren't damaged, revealing that they can increase their vitality by eating it. She mentions that the orcs are always fighting, so there's only a 3% chance for their tenderloins to be normal, and she teleports all of them back to the tower, which impresses Luthas. After that, they free the women who were enslaved by the orcs, and Dina mentions that they haven't been defiled, so Luthas notes that orcs are gentlemen. They always take great care of women in hopes of winning their affection, but the people they kidnap still find them scary, so they can never live together in peace. He makes a huge fist and smashes their base, and as they ride a golem to return to the village, he wonders why no one accepted the quest even though it's so easy. So Dina tells him that the standard of combat has declined in the past 200 years, and notes that the strongest swordsman in the kingdom who summoned him was only level 120. Luthas is shocked hearing this, since there were a lot of players who reached level 1000 just like him, but Dina notes that people only have one life. She explains that to reach level 1000, they need to spend every day fighting and training, and she notes that his era was an abnormality, since he and his rival heroes were able to reach the max level. As they get to the village, the old man gives them their rewards, and Luthas realizes that hiding his identity makes the villagers treat him differently. The old man asks him if he's sure they can keep the golem, so he notes that it will protect them if the orcs attack again, and the villagers thank him for his help. They ask him for his name, so Dina makes up an alias, but he doesn't like it, so he stomps on her foot. After that, they continue their journey toward the nation of Svel, which was formed by the hero Megras, and Luthas plans to retrieve Ares and find out if Megras is a player. Luthas is interested in the light surrounding them, so Dina mentions that it's mana, and as they reach Svel, she shows the guards fake passes to gain entry into the nation. Luthas wants to meet Megras, which makes her wonder if he plans to storm the castle, but he explains that he'll handle things peacefully. He wants to go to the library to learn what happened in the last 200 years, and they ask a man named Gantz for help, so he tells them to follow him. Dina introduces Luthas to him, but he stomps on her foot once again, since she told Gantz that he's a suspicious person. He thinks Luthas's clothes are weird, but decides not to ask him about it, since he must have his reasons. As they walk through the nation, Dina is surprised by how lively it is, but Gantz notes that ever since Ares started attacking them, people have thought that living there is too dangerous. He tells Luthas not to worry, since the water around the nation is a golem created by Megras, and as Luthas checks its stats, he's impressed by how high its HP is. Gantz shows them a train that will lead them to the eastern area, where they can find the library, and as he leaves, Luthas checks his stats and sees that he's at level 82, which is quite high for humans. They arrive at the library, where Luthas is surprised to see that there are books against the heroes, and he thinks the authors should be punished for treason. But Dina notes that Megrez isn't running an oppressive government and reveals that Luthas isn't that hated by everyone. She notes that there are books that treat him as a villain, but there are also a lot of people who think that if he were still in charge, they wouldn't need to live in fear of the devil folk. He starts reading a book, which mentions how Luthas appeared 200 years ago and took over the world, but he was never a tyrannical ruler. After the 7 heroes defeated him, it only made it easier for the devil folk to go on the offensive, since there was no one left to stop them. The 7 heroes banded together to fight the Devil King, but they couldn't defeat him, which is why the human habitat has shrunk so much. Luthas is shocked to learn that the world is on the verge of destruction, and even though he knew that the Devil King was still alive, he had no idea that things were so bad. After he finishes reading the books, he plans to find Ares, but the ground suddenly starts shaking, and an announcement orders the mercenaries to gather at the border. Luthas asks Dina how often Svel gets hit with earthquakes, and she notes that it rarely happens, but he reveals that Ares has a skill that can cause earthquakes, which makes them think it's about to attack. Dina senses mana fluctuation, and she thinks they should check it out by riding the train, but Luthas thinks it's too slow. He uses his alchemy to make a flying device, and as they fly towards the mana fluctuation, he mentions that Ares is a rainbow sheep that likes peace. He thinks the only reason it's attacking Svel is because he was taken down by the heroes, and he suddenly remembers something, which confuses him once again, since the memory doesn't belong to him. We go back to when Luthas first ran into Ares, and he's surprised to see that a rainbow sheep is a legendary monster, which is born only once every 500 years. He starts to cry, and Luthas knows that it's because he's been running from both humans and monsters, since a thread of his wool is more valuable than gold. Luthas notes that instead of crying, Ares should use his strength to attack his enemies, but he jumps towards Luthas and bites his hand. He puts Ares on the ground and invites him to join his side, telling him he'll conquer the world, so Ares agrees to go with Luthas and becomes his first companion. In the present, Gantz reports to his captain, and he's shocked to see the number of monsters they need to hold back until the main forces arrive. But the captain mentions that they have no choice but to fight, and notes that the earthquake earlier was Ares declaring war on them. They know that he only did that before attacking, since it's a rule Luthas imposed on himself, so they realize that Ares is trying to copy his master. The captain tells the mages to start attacking, so they shoot firebolts at the monsters, while the archers rain down arrows from above. The soldiers rush towards the monsters with their spears, and Gantz starts cutting them down, but he realizes that there's too many of them. He wonders when the main forces will arrive, since they can't keep holding the monsters back, and they're about to get overwhelmed, but the golem named Livia suddenly comes to their rescue. She hits the monsters with a huge energy attack, and Megrez praises everyone for holding their ground, telling them it's his turn to protect them. As Luthas and Dina see Livia eliminating the monsters, they realize that she can handle them herself, and Luthas thinks she might be able to defeat Ares. Dina notes that Ares is at a disadvantage since he uses fire, while Livia uses water, and she even has Megrez supporting her. Luthas thinks he won't be able to see Megrez's status, since they're both at the same level, but he's shocked to see that Megrez is only level 500. Luthas notices that he also has a status ailment called the Mark of the Vanquished, so Dina mentions that the Devil King cursed the heroes after he defeated them. So they can only use half of their true power, and Dina thinks Megrez isn't strong enough to make another golem like Livia. Ares comes out to face her, and as they start clashing, Megrez thinks they have the advantage in a direct fight. Ares shoots a fireball, and everyone thinks he missed, but Luthas knows that he was aiming for Megrez, so Livia uses her body to block it. She turns into a huge wave and tries to drown Ares, but he jumps over the water and attacks Megrez, who protects himself with his shield. But he starts to struggle when Ares covers himself with flames, so Livia wraps herself around his body to stop him. Luthas notes that she'll win the battle, but she won't win the war, since Ares' main goal was to weaken her, because he knew he couldn't defeat her in a single invasion. Luthas already thought something was strange, since the monsters Ares brought with him were too weak, and he'll probably retreat since he knows that Livia and Megrez can't follow him. He breaks free from Livia's hold, and as he charges up his attack, Luthas decides to interfere, since it will be troublesome if he weakens Livia even more. He kicks Ares away, sending him flying through the mountains, and Luthas lands in front of Megrez, who asks him who he is. He doesn't reveal his identity, but Megrez gets an idea since his behavior is familiar, and Luthas assures him that he'll take care of Ares. He tells Dina to follow her with her teleportation magic, since he doesn't want to fling her around while he's fighting, and he prepares to leave. But Meggers tells him to be careful, since someone is controlling Ares from behind the scenes, and Luthas happily takes his warning since it's coming from an old friend. Luthas goes to meet Ares, who has no idea who he is, but he's surprised that Ares can speak. He unleashes his powers, and Ares realizes that he's Luthas, but Ares thinks he's just an imposter, since he died a long time ago. He tells Ares to fight him if he doesn't believe him, so Ares puts his body on fire and rushes towards Luthas, who easily stops him. He throws Ares into the air and beats him up, before finally smashing him to the ground. But he covers his body with blue flames, so Luthas realizes that he's about to use his full strength, and he charges at Luthas, but he realizes that he still doesn't stand a chance. Luthas once again sends him flying into a wall, which makes Ares realize that he's the real Luthas, so he turns into his human form and starts to cry. He hugs Luthas, who apologizes for making him worry, and Dina appears out of a teleportation portal. Ares finally stops crying after 20 minutes, and Luthas mentions that he's on a journey to gather the 12 heavenly stars, telling Ares to join him, so he happily accepts the offer. He's glad that he's Luthas' first companion once again, and he greets Dina as well, but he has no idea who she is. So she tries to make him remember her, and he realizes that she's the girl who always blended into the background, which makes her upset. She complains about him to Luthas, so he tells Ares to stop bullying her, since she has been of great help to him. But Ares notes that he just said what he was thinking, which makes her even angrier. Luthas asks Ares why he was attacking Svel, so he explains that he wanted to get revenge on the humans who betrayed Luthas, while he was trying to create a world free from devil folk. Ares starts to cry, and notes that he was angry that the traitors who defeated Luthas were called heroes, so he pats Ares' head to calm him down. He already thought that was Ares' reason for his actions, but he remembers Meggers telling him that someone is manipulating Ares, so Luthas asks him about it. He notes that he has no plan to get revenge on anyone, but he's still glad that Ares felt the need to avenge him, which is why he wants to punish the person who manipulated him. Meanwhile, we see a devil folk named Mars, who tells his army of monsters that it's time for them to march towards Svel and eliminate all the humans. He knows that Lydia can't stop them since she has been weakened, and he's excited to kill one of the heroes, thinking the time he spent manipulating Ares was worth it. Luthas and Ares suddenly arrive from the sky, and they make a huge crater in the ground, which surprises Mars. He asks Ares what's going on, since he's supposed to be destroying Svel, but he notes that he decided against it, after he realized that it isn't what Luthas would have wished for. Mars tells him he has already fulfilled his role, but he can't be allowed to live since he betrayed them, and Luthas tells him to step back, since he still hasn't recovered from his last fight. Mars wonders who Luthas is, and mentions that he didn't know someone as strong as him was still present in this world, but he tells Luthas to blame his luck for running into him. His body starts glowing as he takes out his knives to fight, and he covers them with ice and flames, before rushing towards Luthas. He starts moving around him with incredible speed, while he brags about how amazing he is, and he prepares to strike Luthas, who tells him to be silent and punches him away. He gets a glance of Luthas' face, and realizes that he messed with the wrong person, while Luthas can't believe how weak he is. Luthas recalls how Mars mentioned that he was one of the luminaries, so he asks Ares about it, but before he can say anything, Dina appears out of a portal and notes that she'll explain everything. She reveals that Luminary is a title given to the 7 generals of the devil folk, and they were formed only 80 years ago, which is why Luthas hasn't heard of them. She mentions that they're the strongest devils, aside from the Devil King and his son, which surprises Luthas, since Mars wasn't even at level 300. Dina notes that it just shows how the standards of even the devil folk have fallen, and reveals that even though the Devil King defeated the humans, he also lost his most talented men. So he wasn't able to destroy the world, and Luthas wonders if the only ones left who can fight him are the Devil King and the 12 heavenly stars. Ares notices that none of the monsters are dead, so Luthas reveals that he spared them, since they were just being manipulated. But he knows that they might attack humans if left alone, so he uses a spell to make them his minions. Dina wonders if he plans to take all of them with him, but he just orders them to return to their habitats, and never attack humans without a good reason. After that, they return to Svel, and Luthas tells Meggers about what happened, so he thinks he was right about Luthas. He asks Lufus to come with him, telling him he needs to discuss an important matter with him, and Lufus thinks about how they used to play the game together. He recalls that they spent a lot of time chatting with each other, but he doesn't know if Meggers is the same person he used to play with. He runs into a few people who tell him to be careful because he and Livia are extremely important to their nation. But Dina notices that they don't care for Meggers' safety, and Lufus mentions that they're only thinking about themselves. Meggers notes that they're the upper class, who are supposed to defend everyone, but all they care about is protecting themselves. Lufus wonders if that's what he was trying to show him, but Meggers notes that he just wanted to let him see the proof of his mistakes, and they head to a room where there's no surveillance. He tells Lufus to show his face, so he takes off his robe, and it confirms Meggers' suspicions. He tries to greet Meggers like they're old friends, but Lufus sees the look of fear on his face, which makes him think that Meggers isn't the person he used to play with. He asks Lufus why he returned to the world, wondering if he's just there to laugh at the humans for how far they have fallen, but he notes that he just got summoned by accident. He's confused because he's Meggers' sworn enemy, who has come back from the dead, so it would make sense for Meggers to oppose him, but he isn't doing anything. Lufus recalls the books that criticize the heroes, and realizes that they've been collected by Meggers, who feels guilty for defeating him, since it allowed the devil folk to go on the offensive. He tells Meggers to be proud that he defeated a powerful enemy, and keep moving forward on the path he believes in, saying it's what the Meggers he knew would have done. He asks Lufus if he hates the people for betraying him, since they stopped him from reaching his goal, but he thinks they stood against him because he wasn't a good leader. So he has no reason to hate anyone, and he tells Meggers to stop blaming himself, since he's a hero to the people. He remembers the time he was drinking and laughing with Lufus, while discussing their goals with each other, and he smiles as he thanks Lufus for his advice. After that, Lufus restores Livia's HP, and Meggers wonders where he plans to go next. So Dina mentions that they're going to the grave people made for Lufus, since it's where they can find one of the 12 heavenly stars named Libra. She notes that Lufus's followers made the world's biggest structure to honor him, and the top floor is filled with his treasure and equipment, so Libra has been staying there to protect everything. But she has become a killing machine that eliminates anyone who gets close, and Lufus doesn't understand why people risk their lives to steal his items. So Meggers reveals that all the legendary weapons were destroyed while fighting the Devil King, and the only ones remaining are in Lufus's grave. He asks Lufus to give them the weapons he doesn't need, and he accepts Meggers' request, telling his companions it's time to leave. But Meggers gives him new clothes, and wraps an item around his wings to make them invisible, since he knows that Lufus wasn't comfortable in his previous outfit. So he thanks Meggers and bids him farewell, while Meggers tells him to have a safe journey. After that, they head to Gantz to say goodbye, and he's shocked to see how beautiful Lufus is, but he's even more shocked to learn that Ares is a boy, which makes Lufus laugh. As they're about to leave, Gantz tries to ask Lufus if he's the real one from 200 years ago, but he stops himself and just tells them to take care of themselves. As they prepare to start their journey, Dina tells Lufus to make a golem they can use to travel around, but he thinks her teleportation magic is a better option. She explains that the spell is for personal use only, and if she wants to teleport another living thing, she needs to knock them unconscious or get their consent, but there's still a chance that the magic will fail. Lufus doesn't mind just walking, but she tells him that everyone isn't superhuman like him, and she also thinks he should make a bath and bed for them to rest in. He decides to do it after seeing the look in Ares' eyes, and he uses magic to make a trailer, which impresses his companions. He chops wood and creates furniture as well, but Dina thinks it's too hard, so he makes it soft by covering it with Ares' fur. They decide to call the trailer Tanaka, and as Lufus orders it to take them to their destination, they're amazed by how comfortable it is. At night, they find a spot to rest, and Dina is surprised to find a hot spring nearby. She's excited to get in, and she tries to take Ares with her, but he tells her to go in without him, which makes her remember that he's a boy. She takes off her clothes and gets in the hot spring, but Lufus is feeling awkward, since he's a man in a girl's body. He finally has the courage to take off his clothes, but he refuses to get fully naked, so he keeps a towel on. As he's about to get in, Dina stops him, since he needs to put up his hair before taking a bath, or else it might make the water dirty. She's about to get out to help him, but he tells her to stay put, since he can't bring himself to see her naked. As they're enjoying the hot spring, Lufus can't stop himself from staring at Dina's body, but he's confused since he doesn't feel any emotion. She notices a rare species of frogs, and they see one of the males change its gender, since there's only one female. Dina notes that after changing their gender, the frogs also start developing feelings for the opposite gender, which surprises Lufus, who's afraid that he might fall in love with a man. As they get out of the hot spring, Aries decides to go in next, but Lufus is surprised by how feminine he's acting. The next day, they reach Lufus's grave, but he's surprised to see a whole village around it. So Dina reveals that there are a lot of people who try to steal from his grave, which is why the merchants have moved there to make money. Aries is angry and vows to make all of them pay, but Lufus tells him to calm down, and he's surprised by how serious Aries gets when it comes to him. They notice that a lot of people have gathered near the entrance, and Dina asks one of the parties what's going on. So they reveal that a special team went into the grave 2 months ago, but they still haven't done their daily check-in. The team reported yesterday that they were close to the top floor, which is why everyone was excited, and Lufus tells his companions that they should retrieve Libra before she harms the team. The adventurers try to stop them, telling them that the team that went in was made up of 50 men, whose powers were recognized by the nation. But they still struggle to conquer the grave, so the adventurers think Lufus and his comrades don't stand a chance, but he assures them that they're going to be fine. As they enter the grave, they run into a golem that Lufus created when he was fighting the 7 heroes, and it still recognizes him as its master, so it doesn't attack him. But it tries to eliminate Dina, as Lufus realizes that her presence was so weak that even the golem forgot about her. He's about to help her, but the adventurer party they were talking to rushes in and tries to save her. They hit it with everything they've got, but it doesn't even scratch the golem, because their level is too low. Lufus tells Aries to help them, so he sends it flying into a wall with his fire punch, which amazes the adventurers. They each introduce themselves, and Lufus is surprised by how unbalanced their party is, because all of them are frontliners. Lufus introduces himself and notes that he's a ranger, but Dina and Aries mention that they're also rangers, so one of the adventurers named Jean mentions that their team isn't balanced. Lufus is shocked that someone like Jean is trying to lecture him, and he tells Jean not to worry since their levels are high. But Jean mentions that even though they're all beautiful, they're still muscle heads, which further annoys Lufus. Jean notes that his party can act as their bodyguard, and Lufus tries to deny his request, but Dina accepts his offer and tells Lufus they can just relax until they reach Libra. Meanwhile, we see the other party reaching the top floor, where they run into Libra, who tells them to leave peacefully, or else she'll remove them by force. They try to explain that humanity needs Lufus's treasure to survive, but she thinks they're just trying to steal her master's belongings, so she traps them in her barrier and takes them out. As Lufus and the others move forward, they run into another golem, and the adventurers try to take care of it, but their attacks have no effect on it. It knocks them down, but Lufus orders it to stop, which gives them a chance to defeat it, and they're confused by how weak it was. But they think it was no match for them since they're strong, and Lufus wonders how long he needs to keep tricking them. They eventually run into another golem, but it's stronger than anything they've faced so far, so Lufus tells everyone to stay back. The adventurers warn him that he can't defeat the golem alone, but Aries and Dina tell them not to worry, since he must have a plan. He asks the golem if it recognizes him, but it thinks he's an intruder and tries to punch him, so he dodges the attack and slices its body in half. But as it's about to die, it recognizes Lufus and welcomes him home, so he thanks the golem for all it has done for him, and tells it to rest in peace. The adventurers ask Lufus who he really is, because they know he's been supporting them ever since they entered the grave, and he's also been acting like he knows Libra. But he refuses to answer their question, and tells everyone to stay there, since none of them can survive Libra's brachium skill. As Lufus moves forward, he doesn't understand why he feels sad after destroying the golem, thinking it would have made sense for the real Lufus, but he has no feelings and memories attached to it. He reaches the top floor, but Libra thinks he's an intruder, so she threatens to kill him if he doesn't leave within 10 seconds. She starts the countdown, so Lufus shows her his wings and asks her if she knows who he is, which makes her wonder if he's her master. She verifies that there's a 99% chance that he's the real Lufus, which makes her malfunction, so he tells her to calm down, telling her he needs to repair her. She warns him that if he steps forward, she won't hesitate to attack him, but he doesn't care and starts to move towards her, so she transforms their surroundings and takes out her guns. She starts flying around using her jetpack while shooting bullets and missiles at him, but he manages to dodge all of them. She finally runs out of bullets, so she launches her fists towards him, but he easily deflects them. Libra decides to use Brachium, and Luthas knows it's a skill that guarantees a hit on her opponents, so he prepares to take damage since there's no way to dodge it. A huge amount of energy starts coming out of her body, which manages to hurt Luthas and decrease his HP. But he endures it and walks towards Libra, telling her he has finally reached her, but she shoots a laser from her eyes, so he jumps out of the way. But she turns her hand into a sword and tries to stab him, so he parries it as he rushes towards her, but he heals all of her injuries, which makes her realize that he's the real Luthas. So she finally ends her mission of guarding the grave, and Luthas is glad that she finally calmed down. But he wonders how he'll explain everything to the adventurers, and as he returns to everyone else, he notices that something's wrong with the adventurers. So Dina reveals that she changed their memories to make them believe they never saw them and that they were the ones who conquered the grave. Luthas wonders if it was her plan from the beginning, and she mentions that there's no other reason she would have let such hindrances come with them, which makes him glad that she's on their side. They head to the top floor, and they're surprised to see the amount of treasure there, but Luthas suddenly starts shaking. Dina recalls that he likes shiny things, which is why he collected so much treasure, but he doesn't remember adding such a thing to Luthas' character. She thinks they should get everything they need before he goes crazy, so he assures her that it will never happen. But she tells him to return the useless things he's holding, which shocks him since he doesn't remember picking anything up. She tells him to sit back since he keeps grabbing pointless things, and after they get everything they need, she asks him to gather all the golems. But he gets tired doing that, and he wonders who created such a huge grave for him. Dina teleports everything back to the tower, but Luthas wonders if it's okay for them to leave the adventurers behind. So she assures him that they'll be fine, and we see them celebrating conquering the grave. After that, Luthas tells Libra to wake up, and he asks her if something feels off with her body, but she assures him that there are no issues. She notices Ares and mentions that his body still doesn't match his gender, which surprises him that it's the first thing she said to him after 200 years. She greets Dina as well, but Libra also has no idea who she is, so Luthas notes that she's his advisor, which shocks Libra, since she doesn't have any data on her. She tries to make Libra remember her, so she scans her face, but there's nothing about Dina in her memory. She mentions that a part of her memory storage has deteriorated, and it will take several months to restore it, but she thinks there might be information on Dina in that part. Luthas thinks about how he still can't tell what's going on in Libra's mind, since she has no expressions, but he'll trust her since she protected his grave for 200 years. He tells her that her next mission is to help him retrieve the 12 heavenly stars, and he asks her if she has information on any of them. But she explains that she spent all her time in the grave, so she has no idea what's happening in the outside world. Dina notes that there's a small village at the base of the mountains, which was created by one of the 12 heavenly stars named Parthenos, who now lives there in secret. Dina reveals that Parthenos made a barrier to protect powerless monsters and plants from enemies, so that they can live in isolation from the rest of the world. Luthas is glad that she took initiative instead of causing trouble, but Dina reveals that the mountain she's at is his homeland, and she has driven out all of the heaven-winged who used to live there. She created an uninhabited sanctuary all under her control, which makes him take back his previous statement, and he thinks she could have just quietly waited for his arrival. Luthas wakes up from a strange dream, and Dina asks him if he's okay, so he notes that he just had a dream, but he can't even remember what it was. Ares wonders where the heaven-winged went after Parthenos drove them out, so Dina reveals that they went to a place called Gallarhorn, which was founded by one of the 7 heroes named Merak. They see the royal capital of Gallarhorn, and Luthas thinks he shouldn't show himself to the heaven-winged. But he wants to see Merak, since he might be a player just like him, so Luthas tells everyone they'll be stopping in Gallarhorn. They immediately realize that the city looks strange, since the buildings are along the cliffside, and Dina notes that the heaven-winged split into 2 factions. She reveals that the white-winged supremacists refuse to acknowledge the rights of the mixed-winged, since they think they're superior to them, and Merak has been trying to stop both sides from fighting. Ares notes that during Luthas' reign, the discrimination against the mixed-winged was prohibited, but he can't remember giving such an order. Dina reveals that the 2 sides have been fighting for the last 2 centuries, and Luthas thinks he's the reason why the mixed-winged are being persecuted, so he wants to do something about it. They see the stairs, but they realize that they have a long way to go before they reach the capital, so Libra activates her jetpack and takes everyone to the city. The mixed-winged gather around them, since they made a loud noise when they arrived, and Dina apologizes for disturbing everyone. A man thinks they must be tired from their journey, and he invites them to stay at his family's inn, so they decide to rest there for the night. Lufus has a dream about his character's father, who used to beat her up when she was a kid, because he thought she was the reason why their family was suffering. He tells her not to leave the house, and locks her inside, while he goes to a party with the other white-winged. Lufus's mother visits her, but she tells her she should be resting, and notes that her father will be angry if he sees her. She gives Lufus bread, and starts walking away with her, but her father sees them, and asks her mother why she helped Lufus escape. She tells her father not to hurt her mother, but she suddenly starts coughing, and his father tells Lufus that she's the reason why her mother is sick. He knocks Lufus down and takes her mother away, and as she lies on the ground, she wonders if her father doesn't like her because she has dark wings. She gets up and runs away, as she thinks about how unfair the world is, and she knows that nobody is coming to save her, so she realizes that she needs to get stronger to change things herself. Lufus wakes up, and Libra asks him if he's okay, so he tells her not to worry, since he just had a dream about his past. But he knows that he didn't create that backstory for his character, and he thinks about the strange things that happened, realizing he isn't in the world of the game. But he wonders what happened to the real Lufus's soul, since he's stuck in her body. Meanwhile, at the Devil King's castle, the luminaries have a meeting, but they wonder why Mars isn't with them. One of them, named Venus, notes that he was the weakest of the 7 luminaries, and thinks he's a disgrace since he lost to one of the 12 heavenly stars. She mentions that she's been looking into the person who defeated him, and notes that he has dark wings, so everyone wonders if it's Lufus. But they think it's impossible, since he died 200 years ago, and they ask her if she knows where he's going. So she notes that he's in Gallarhorn, and their leader orders her to keep monitoring him. The next day, Lufus tells the others that he wants to meet Merak, but they know it will be difficult to talk to him because of the internal conflict. Lufus notes that they should gather information for now, and Libra asks him where he's going, so he tells her he'll investigate the mixed-winged. Dina decides to look into the white-winged while he does that, and he mentions that they should split up, but Libra suddenly takes off, and he's annoyed since she's attracting too much attention. Ares reveals that one of the heavenly stars named Keros invited him to join the devil folk a long time ago, so Ares thinks he's working with the demons. Lufus walks around the city, and he sees a black temple, so he wonders what kind of god the mixed-winged are worshipping. He sees his statue in the temple, and a man tells him about their religion, revealing that they worship Lufus as their savior. He explains that the white-winged always look down on them because of the color of their wings, but Lufus used her strength to conquer the nation and ban discrimination. So everyone started treating them with respect, and they were able to regain their pride, as people stopped judging them because of the color of their wings. Lufus asks the man if he forgot about Parthenos, who stole their homeland from them, so he explains that he still remembers her. But he thinks they were driven from their homeland as punishment, since they betrayed Lufus and allowed the devil folk to rise to power. Lufus asks him what he thinks about King Merak, so the man mentions that he's a fool, and thinks he doesn't deserve to be called a hero. We see Libra looking for threats in the city, and she realizes that nobody's aware of her master's presence, but she sees Dina looking for someone, while a suspicious man approaches her. Libra thinks he's a devil folk in disguise, so she immediately confronts him, and he pretends that he's just a traveler, but she knows that he's lying. So he realizes that she saw through his disguise, and tries to attack her from behind, but she turns around and fires a laser beam. He manages to dodge it, but she tells him he won't escape and starts shooting him. We cut to Ares, who realizes that it's too silent, and he suddenly finds himself surrounded by a barrier. Keros appears before him, and Ares asks him what he's doing there, so he reveals that he's working with the devil folk to defeat the 7 heroes. He explains that his interests are aligned with the devil folk, and he invites Ares to join them again, telling him they can defeat the heroes together. We see Merak talking to white-winged officials, who tell him to exile the mixed-winged faction, and we learn that he founded the nation for the mixed-winged who have nowhere to go. But the white-winged lost their homeland, so he reluctantly welcomed them to the nation, but they ended up persecuting the mixed-winged. He knows that they're the ones who are wrong, but he wants to respect their suggestion, since he also has white wings, so he thinks he isn't fit to be king. He recalls how his parents raised him to become the king of the heaven-winged, and he met Luthas, who was persecuted because of her dark wings. But she used the people's hatred for her as fuel to get stronger, and we learn that he respects her, because he knows that he's nothing compared to her. We return to Libra, who continues to shoot her opponent, but he uses his magic to defend himself. He attacks her with his wind slash, but she uses her pistol to block it, and realizes that he's a master of the wood element. He admits that she's right, and reveals that he's one of the luminaries named Jupiter, so she formally introduces herself, and transforms her hand into an energy blade. Meanwhile, Ares refuses to join Keros, telling him that Luthas has returned, and he tries to convince him to serve Luthas once again. But Keros notes that he can't do that yet, and explains that he's still loyal to Luthas, but he wants to defeat the heroes before returning to him. He bids Ares farewell, and after he leaves, Ares realizes that he has no right to stop him, since he also wanted to kill the heroes, and he wonders if he should tell Luthas about Keros. Dina sees a suspicious man, and she follows him as he heads to a hideout, where he meets his white-winged companions. He tells them they can't rely on Merak, since he won't listen to them, and they think they should just crush the mixed-winged themselves. He reveals that Jupiter told him that the mixed-winged are preparing for war, so he recruited an army of volunteers, but he wonders why Jupiter didn't show up at their meeting place. Dina hears their conversation, so she realizes that the nation is on the brink of civil war, while Jupiter is spreading rumors to make the situation even worse. Jupiter attacks with his wind blades, but Libra shrugs them off, and he realizes that her body is as hard as steel, since her element is metal. He knows that it's the worst possible matchup against his wood element, and he realizes that she has memorized his movement patterns, so he decides to retreat. He surrounds himself with a tornado, so she cuts through it, and she realizes that he was able to escape, but she's confident that he won't survive their next encounter. After that, Luthas and his companions discuss the situation, and Dina reports that Jupiter is inciting the White-Winged to start a war. Libra notes that she fought him in the White District, and reveals that he's one of the luminaries, so Luthas realizes that the devil folk are involved. She asks him to prepare guns and bullets for her, so that she can defeat Jupiter, and he tells her he'll use his alchemy to give her what she needs. Ares mentions that he has nothing to report, and Luthas tells everyone that the Black District made a statue for him in their temple, so Libra thinks they should support them. Dina notes that they don't need to get involved in the conflict, but Libra explains that if this nation falls, the devil folk will invade the territory, and Luthas won't have enough time to gather his forces. She suggests forming an alliance with the Mixed-Winged faction, since Luthas can use them as his pawns after they conquer the White District, and he's impressed by her suggestion. But he tells everyone they won't take sides, and notes that they should focus on capturing Jupiter instead, so that they can expose him to the public. Dina realizes that Luthas plans to make him the villain, so that the entire nation will gang up on him, but he tells them to prioritize their safety, since he wants them to make it back alive. Jupiter is angry that Libra is ruining his plan, and Venus tells him to calm down, but he notes that he can't crush Merak since he can't defeat Libra. So Venus decides to help him, and tells him she can keep Libra in check for 20 minutes. Luthas uses his alchemy to make guns and bullets for Libra, and tells her to take as much as she likes, so she absorbs all of them into her body. He reminds her not to kill Jupiter, but she notes that she hasn't seen Dina for a while, revealing that she can't detect her in the city. He thinks Dina used her teleportation magic to return to their base, and Libra wonders if he's referring to the spell called Escape, which suddenly makes him feel strange. He recalls that teleportation magic didn't exist 200 years ago, and Escape is the title of the game he played, but he wonders why Dina can use a spell with that name. Dina returns to the inn, but Luthas and Libras suddenly start interrogating her, and he wonders why she was just a background NPC, since she knows memory manipulation and teleportation magic. So she reveals that she trained hard for 200 years, because she wanted to be useful, and Luthas realizes that she's telling the truth. He uses his observing eye to check her stats, and realizes that she's strong enough to fight the 7 luminaries, but he still feels like he's missing something important. After that, Dina reveals that she can take Libra anywhere she wants, since the conditions for using Escape don't apply to golems like her. Libra wants to give it a try, and notes that Jupiter still hasn't approached the surrounding area, so she thinks he won't make his move soon. She mentions that they'll be gone for 10 minutes, and Dina teleports away with her, but there's suddenly an explosion, and Luthas realizes that the White District is on fire. Jupiter tells the White Wing that the Black District is behind the attack, and they immediately believe him, since they never trusted the mixed-winged faction. A dark air surrounds the city, and it makes everyone want to kill each other, so the two factions prepare for war. Luthas realizes that someone used moon magic to make them go berserk, and he knows it couldn't be Jupiter, since he's of the wood element. Ares asks Luthas what he'll do if one of the 12 heavenly stars started the riot, so he notes that he'll do anything it takes to stop them. But if they're still loyal to him, he would commend their efforts and tell them he doesn't want to destroy the nation. Ares is happy to hear this and tells Luthas to leave everything to him, but after he leaves, Luthas realizes that Keros was the one who made everyone go berserk. Jupiter laughs as he watches the events unfold, and notes that he still has 10 minutes before Libra returns, but she suddenly appears behind him. He wonders how she got there, since Venus was supposed to keep her busy for 20 minutes, so he thinks she must have screwed up. Libra tells him to surrender since he doesn't stand a chance, and he tries to escape, but she shoots him from behind and launches her homing missiles to attack him. He destroys them before they can reach him, but she reveals that she already predicted his move and sends him crashing to the ground. He uses his wind magic to hide his presence, but she still finds him, so he uses his spell to break free and starts running away. Ares confronts Keros, who realizes that he's there to stop him, so he warns Ares that he's no match for him, but he still refuses to back down. Keros blasts him with his spells, so Ares uses his flames to defend himself, but Keros manages to restrain him. He knows that Keros is stronger than him, but he still refuses to back down, and he smashes the ground to break free. He surrounds himself with his flames as he charges in, and he manages to defeat Keros, but he realizes that it was just an illusion, and the real Keros summons a ball of darkness to attack him. Ares thinks it's all over for him, but Luthas protects him and asks Keros why he's trying to kill his ally. He's overjoyed to see Luthas, and he starts crying, so Luthas realizes that he's still loyal to him. He notes that he understands why Keros wants to get revenge, but tells him he doesn't want to destroy the nation, so he asks him to free the people from his spell. Keros agrees to do it, and he transforms into his human form, telling Luthas that the people are no longer under his spell. He hides in Luthas' shadow, but tells him it isn't over yet, since the two factions still hate each other. Dina tells him not to worry, since they can still prevent the civil war, and she promises to convince the people to settle things peacefully. Keros is surprised to see her, and recognizes her as the advisor who faded into the background thanks to her stealth ability, but Luthas and Ares can't believe he remembers her. We see Jupiter hiding as he prays to his god, since he doesn't want Libra to find him, but he realizes that she's already behind him, so he freaks out and runs away. But she follows him wherever he goes, and tells him she can predict all of his moves, so he won't survive unless he surrenders. He tries to hide in a cabin, but realizes that she's already there waiting for him, and she threatens to use her brachium if he doesn't give up. She gives him 10 seconds to surrender and starts counting down, so he cries as he begs for mercy, and she realizes that he has lost his will to fight, so she decides to spare him. Luthas realizes that the people are ready to kill each other, and Merak tells them to stop, since the devil folk will conquer them if they don't come to terms. But Luthas wonders why he only has one wing, so he uses his observing eye, and realizes that Merak lost one of his wings because he has the mark of the vanquished. Libra suddenly arrives, and she tells everyone to deal with Jupiter, but they have no idea what's happening, so Dina explains that he's one of the 7 luminaries who serve the Devil King. The White-Winged recognize him, but they're surprised to learn that he's a devil, and she tells everyone to gang up on him, since he's the one who caused them to fight. They prepare to execute him, but he sees her smiling, and he immediately recognizes her, so he realizes that he's been betrayed. He breaks free and rushes to attack her, but Libra suddenly stabs him from behind, and reminds him that she would kill him if he tries anything. He's about to tell everyone about Dina's true identity, but Libra finishes him off, and Dina is glad that it's finally over. After that, Merak thanks Libra for saving the nation, and notes that he wants to talk to her in the castle, but she explains that she'll only take orders from her master. He realizes that she's referring to Luthas, so he invites him to the castle, where he tells him to remove his disguise. So Luthas shows him his wings, and Merak can't believe he's still alive, while Luthas realizes that he isn't a player like him. Luthas tells Merak that he has grown weaker, but he explains that he was always weak, so he thinks he isn't fit to be king, telling Luthas he's nothing compared to him. He notes that the heroes shouldn't have taken him down, but Luthas calls him a fool and thinks his character doesn't want Merak to say that, since she doesn't regret her defeat. He notes that the hero's victory wasn't a mistake and tells Merak to be proud, since he was one of the heroes who defeated him. He admits that he's no match for him and tells Luthas he hasn't changed at all, but he notes that he won't help Merak run his nation, so he needs to figure things out himself. After Luthas leaves the castle, he notes that he isn't used to giving lectures, and Libra tells him that she wasn't able to record what happened. He tells her to delete the photos of him while he was talking to Merak, but she doesn't know what a photo is, and Ares and Kairos think it must be a spell. Luthas realizes that there are no photos in this world, but he recalls his first conversation with Dina, who understood him when he mentioned the word photos, so he tells her he wants to talk to her in private. Meanwhile, the white-winged officials try to convince Merak to get rid of the Black District, but he uses his powers to intimidate them and tells them he's had enough. He orders his guards to take them away, and he's glad that the issue has finally been resolved, thinking he made the right move. We see a man reporting to a vampire named Nashu, and he tells her about the situation in Svel, so she realizes that Luthas has returned, and she looks forward to settling the score with him. Luthas asks Dina who she really is, so she admits that she didn't serve as his advisor 200 years ago, and reveals that she knew a background NPC in the tower, so she decided to use them. He realizes that she's a player, since she knows what an NPC means, and she explains that she manipulated Ares and Kairos' memories, which explains why they remembered her as his advisor. But her magic didn't work on Libra, because golems have records instead of memories, and Luthas wonders if Dina also used her spell on him. So she explains that she couldn't plant false memories in his head, since his will is too strong, which is why she decided to pretend to be a background NPC to deceive him. She reveals that she's a beta tester, who was hired by the company to test the new half-elf race, and she notes that she has access to the company's computer, so she knows a lot about the world. She changes the color of her hair, revealing that she can enter the castle of the devil folk, since she has the power to disguise herself, and she notes that she planned to get Luthas and the devil folk to crush each other. But she realizes that she underestimated him, and she decides to change her plan, telling him she'll defeat him so that she can make him her pawn. He thinks she doesn't stand a chance since she's only level 300, but when he checks her stats again, he realizes that she's as powerful as him. She transforms into Venus, telling him she's one of the 7 luminaries, and she flies up into the sky, where she unleashes her powers and surrounds him with her barrier. She notes that no one can interfere with their fight, and she blasts him with her lightning, but she realizes that it has no effect on him. She attacks him with countless spikes, but he blows them away, and uses his alchemy to create swords, which he launches towards her. But she uses her X-skate to absorb them into a portal, and sends them back at him, so he dodges them as he flies toward her, but she just teleports away. She uses her water magic to make it rain, and as roots start growing from the ground, she orders them to attack Luthas, but he destroys them with his meteor kick and charges at her. So she uses Escape to escape, but she realizes that he's already behind her, and she manages to hit him, but he tells her it won't work. He explains that she's a backline mage, so her physical attacks are extremely weak, and he sends her crashing to the ground. He tells her she can't win against him, since backliners are supposed to have countermeasures against frontliners, and he realizes that she lacks experience, because she only plays the game to test new abilities. He notes that it doesn't matter if they're both level 1000, since his gaming skills are superior, and he tells her to surrender. She wonders if he'll forgive her for deceiving him, so he tells her he's willing to talk to her, since she's been helping him all this time, and he mentions that he wants to know what her goal is. But she tells him the fight isn't over yet, and she uses her ultimate spell, which creates a massive portal above them, and it brings forth a giant meteor. It threatens to destroy Gallarhorn, and Dina teleports to safety, wondering what Luthas will do to counter the meteor. He flies towards it, and uses his iron kick as he prepares to attack it head-on, but he isn't sure if he can destroy it, so he buffs his leg to pierce its defense. He manages to shatter it, and everyone watches as its fragments fall to the ground. But Dina realizes that she's no match for him, so she decides to surrender. She reveals that she was just a beta tester who came to this world after Luthas was sealed away, but she suddenly found herself stuck in the avatar she used to play. She notes that the world is different from the one she's familiar with, since there aren't a lot of high-level players, and she mentions that those who weren't written in the novels don't exist. so she thinks they're in the world published in the game's novels, and Luthas knows that a lot of players weren't included in the game's official story, since only a few authors worked on it. But he wonders why Dina exists in this world, since she's just a beta tester, so she explains that her case is different because she didn't start out as a resident of this world. Luthas realizes that the humans lost to the Devil King, since most of the high-level players from the original game didn't make it to this world, and Dina knows that she can't defeat him alone. So she decided to infiltrate the Devil Folk and delay their conquest from within. Luthas realizes that she helped him since she wanted him to defeat the Devil King, and she tells him about how she betrayed Jupiter, but he suddenly starts to feel strange again. He wonders if there's something wrong with what she's telling him, and he asks her if she's his enemy, so she admits that she tried to manipulate him, but she doesn't want to be his enemy. He tells her to serve him again, and notes that he'll overlook the matter, since he thinks he owes her for helping him in this world. He adds that having a shady advisor sounds fun, because he enjoys having dangerous subordinates, and she realizes that he's a player, since he doesn't behave like the real Luthas. He's glad that he finally found someone who's in the same situation as him, thinking they're the only anomalies in this world, and he knows that they both want to exterminate the Devil Folk. He tells her to help him by putting her strength and knowledge to good use, and she thinks he has what it takes to defeat the Devil King, so she decides to continue working for him. But Libra arrives with the others, and they ask him about the meteor, so he tells them it was created by a mysterious force that tried to attack Gallarhorn. He apologizes for not summoning them when he learned about the threat, but notes that they've achieved what they came there to do. So they should start looking for the heavenly star Parthenis, and he asks Kairos if he has information about the other heavenly stars. So he explains that one of them, named Scorpius, has decided to work with the Devil Folk to avenge Luthas, while the heavenly star Leon has been waging war against Nashu. So Luthas doesn't want to get involved with them, but Kairos notes that he once heard a rumor among the Devil Folk that the kingdom has succeeded in summoning the hero. We meet a boy named Sei, who lives as an ordinary high school student, but he suddenly hears a voice calling for help, and the kingdom summons him as its hero. The summoners are happy since the ritual was successful, and they tell him about their situation, so he realizes that they need him to defeat Luthas and the Devil King. They beg him to help them, and he recalls how his father taught him not to abandon people in need, so he promises to do his best for them. Several weeks later, we see him training with a captain named Friedrich, who's known as the greatest swordsman in the world, but we learn that he can't speak the human language. Sei can't understand what he's saying, so the vice captain translates what Friedrich told him, revealing that he's angry since Sei got distracted during their sparring match. An elf named Cross tells him they've finally gathered a party for his journey, and he appears before the king, who introduces him to his team. We learn that Friedrich and the vice captain are part of the heroes' party, and Cross will serve as their acolyte, while a girl named Alfie will be their mage. The king adds that they received steel golems from Megris, which will be useful for their journey, and we see that the covert squad of 10 rangers have also decided to join them. The king orders Sei to begin his journey, so the people cheer for him as he leaves with his party, but when he takes a step outside, his companions panic as they see something above them. The golems suddenly malfunction, and the rangers retreat, as Sei realizes that Luthas and the Devil King have appeared. We go back to when Kairos told Luthas that the kingdom was able to summon a hero, and he remembers the player Eliath, who received the hero class in the game. We learn that his class allowed him to grow his abilities at an incredible speed, and he became the highest ranking player because of it. But Luthas knows that the Devil Folk know about the new hero, and he's worried that they'll send someone to kill him as soon as he begins his journey. Dina reveals that the country is surrounded by a barrier created by Eliath, who used his soul succession skill to keep the Devil Folk away, and Luthas remembers how it works. So he knows that it buffs the user's allies in the area, while lowering the enemy's abilities at the same time, and the effect lasts until the battle is over, but the user always dies after using it. Luthas thinks death is permanent in this world, so the user won't respawn as they did in the game, and Dina notes that Eliath was sent into an eternal slumber after he created the barrier. Luthas realizes that he's still protecting the nation, so he thinks the hero will be safe there, and Dina mentions that only the Devil King and his son can get past it. But Luthas thinks the Devil Folk will send the 7 luminaries to get rid of the hero, and he thinks it's the perfect chance to eliminate them, so he decides to head to the kingdom. But when he arrives, he realizes that the 7 luminaries aren't there, and he finds the Devil King Orm instead. We return to the present, as Orm greets Lufus, and he unleashes his power, which forces the hero's party to bow before him. He reveals that the demons call Lufus the Star of Death, since he kills anyone he comes across, and he also unleashes his power, as he wonders if Orm came there because he's afraid of the hero. So he explains that it isn't the case, since he's only afraid of the goddess and Lufus, and he reveals that he came there to meet him. He admits that he always avoided fighting him directly, but after Lufus died, he realized that Lufus was the only one acting outside the goddess's scenario. He doesn't understand what Orm is talking about, so he asks him to explain, but Orm tells Lufus to fight him if he wants to find out. As they begin to fight, destroying everything around them, the hero's party falls into despair, as they realize that they're no match for Lufus and Orm. They trade blows, and Orm manages to land a solid hit, but Lufus endures it and launches him to outer space. He charges up his fist and punches Orm with all his might, and the attack splits the sky, but Orm manages to block it. He tells Lufus his strength is impressive, and notes that he hasn't faced a worthy opponent in 200 years, while Lufus tries to act cool. But he's actually shocked by how powerful Orm is, and he thinks he'll lose if the fight drags on, since Orm has more HP than him. They return to the ground, where Orm asks Lufus why he isn't fighting with his full strength, since he knows that the Lufus from 200 years ago was stronger than him. Lufus doesn't understand what he means, so Orm realizes that he got weaker, and tells him it's still too early for them to fight. Orm tells him he can't overcome the goddess's scenario in his current state, and notes that it's what the whole world is following, revealing that the goddess is using the devil folk as pawns. He explains that the devil folk kill people to survive, and notes that they'll disappear and turn into mana if they don't do that, which explains why they can't live without violence. He notes that the goddess created them with that flaw, to bring excitement to her scenario, and she left him in charge of managing them. Cross wonders if she's doing this because she wants everyone to suffer, and Orm tells him he's right, explaining that she made the heroes get rid of Lufus, since the devil folk were afraid of him. He recalls how the heroes regretted defeating him, since it allowed the devil folk to invade the human territory, and Orm thinks he tried to end the scenario, because he reached the truth before everyone else. But Dina suddenly summons a meteor to attack Orm, who easily destroys it, but Libra blasts him with her laser and flies away with Lufus. He tells her it still isn't time to retreat, but she continues to fly away with him, and Orm asks Dina why she attacked him, so she explains that she just wanted to get Lufus to trust her. He notes that Lufus has become weaker, and he asks her if she had something to do with it, but she tells him that only the goddess has the power to do that. Orm and Dina teleport away, while the hero's party is left in shock, thinking they don't have what it takes to complete their mission. Lufus wonders why Libra dragged him away, worrying for the hero's safety, but Dina appears and mentions that the Devil King just left since the hero is no threat to him. Lufus goes up to the roof and thinks about the goddess's scenario that the Devil King mentioned. He knows that the goddess represented the developers of the game, but he thinks that the world has become increasingly different, so he doesn't know what's going on. A few days later, we see the king apologizing to say, since Alfie and the ranger squad ran away, but he tells him not to worry, since he has prepared new companions for him. He introduces Alfie's father Gantz, the strongest mercenary, and also an elite adventurer party, but it turns out to be the group that Dina tricked into clearing Lufus's grave. The king also decides to join the party, wanting to prove that he's still useful, but his men end up restraining him. Say wonders if they are committing a crime, but Cross tells him not to worry, and with their new party formed, they prepare to head off once again to defeat the Devil King. Meanwhile, Lufus's group arrives in Vanaheim to look for Parthenis. Dina notes that she's been protecting Lufus's homeland for the last 200 years, but Lufus wonders how that's possible, since Parthenis was a human. They easily get through the barrier, so Lufus thinks they must be recognized as allies. They arrive at Parthenis' house, but are surprised to see a heaven-winged instead of a human. Karos tries to intimidate her, but Lufus quickly throws him away and apologizes, asking to see Parthenis. The girl recognizes Lufus from his wings, so she introduces herself as Libra. She offers to take them to see Parthenis, saying that she'll be happy to see them, but they end up going to her grave. Libra explains that Parthenis' belief in Lufus kept her alive, but she choked on a piece of fruit last year. Lufus remembers Dina telling him that all 12 heavenly stars were still around, so she notes that she saw the barrier was still active, so she thought Parthenis must have still been around. Libra notes that Parthenis's resentment kept her in the world as a ghost, so Luthas wonders where they can find her, so Libra explains that she's in the barrier and comes out once in a while to repair it. She notes that the next time could be in a few months, and Luthas thinks they can wait, but Karos suddenly fires an enormous energy blast to destroy the barrier. He thinks he has done a good job, but Luthas glares at him, since Parthenis might see them as enemies now. They decide to wait for her to show up, but after a while, she still doesn't appear, so they wonder if she's already moved on. Luthas thinks they can leave, but Libra reminds him about his mother, and he knows that the real Luthas would pay her respects to her every year, so he decides to visit her grave. Dina thinks the mountain is too tall, so Luthas transforms their car into a jet, and they take off up the mountain. After they land, Luthas feels nostalgic, even though he's never been there before, and he sees Luthas's memories of when she used to get bullied. As they walk around, Libra asks him what it was like to live there, so he explains how he was discriminated against, but Dina secretly warns him not to be drawn into Luthas's memories, or else he might lose his own sense of self. But there's suddenly an explosion, as Libra and the others start trashing the place, since it was a place that treated him so poorly, but he quickly reprimands them, not wanting them to destroy his mother's grave. They reach Luthas's old house, which Karos finds impressive, but Luthas notes that he actually grew up in the shed next door, since his father hated him. He asks his companions if they have heard of the goddess's scenario, and they all don't know about it, but Parthenis suddenly appears. She prepares to explain things, but first asks Luthas how much of his memories he is missing, which surprises him. She notes that he told her it would be the case, because the goddess was likely to mess with his revival. He wonders why he asked her to seal the city 200 years ago, so she asks to talk to him alone. She reveals one of the goddess's 5 dragons, the Dragon of Heaven, and Luthas knows that it's a legendary creature that only appeared in the lore books. He doesn't think he could defeat it, and Parthenis reveals that they're all in a deep sleep, but they will awaken if the world is truly in danger and fulfill their roles as guardians. Luthas realizes that he asked her to seal the city so that they could seal it away, and he knows they would destroy everything if they awakened. Parthenis tells him how he plotted to destroy the goddess's scenario in the past. He knew he couldn't win against both the goddess and the 5 dragons, so he acted first, and sealed away the 5 dragons throughout the world, planning to face the goddess after he defeated the Devil King. Parthenis notes that the other heavenly stars were able to seal 3 of the other dragons, but the Dragon of the Moon still hasn't been found, so Luthas wonders if it's actually on the moon. Parthenis wonders what he plans to do next, so he notes that he still wants to visit his mother's grave, and Parthenis warns him about the goddess's avatar skill, saying that even though she can't interact directly, she can summon avatars that obey her, so she could be anywhere, telling him not to let his guard down. As Luthas visits his mother's grave, he wonders what the real Luthas was thinking when she picked a fight with the goddess. He realizes that the goddess saw Luthas as a nuisance, and she used him to stop her from reaching her goal, but he wonders why he was chosen, so he finally finds his purpose, determined to do whatever it takes to meet the goddess, so he can find out why she dragged him into this world. He realizes that he's just been dancing in her palm, which makes him feel sick, so he plans to discover Luthas's goal and carry it out himself, so that the goddess will have no choice but to find him. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.